Hello, good evening, and welcome back. I do apologise about the lack of live stream this evening. I have been so busy with work recently, but we will try to reschedule for tomorrow. Because of the small nature of this channel, it will have to be done through a video post earlier on in the day, as you need a bigger audience before you can post updates in post form. I do apologise. But back to the topic this evening. COVID. Public must think carefully about Christmas risk. NHS bosses warn. People must think really carefully about the risk of more social contact over Christmas. NHS bosses have warned. And I think this is brilliant. This is fantastic. This is the way that it should have been done since the beginning. This is honestly the best way to do things. So, because for the period that they're stating, the law is much more relaxed than it has been. I mean, it's not as relaxed as it could or should be, but nonetheless, they're saying 3 households can mix in their Christmas bauble. They're calling it bubble, but they're missing a trick there. So I'm going to call it a bauble. That you can have 3 different households staying overnight, mixing with households, all that good stuff, for the 23rd to the 27th of December. But the NHS bosses, the chiefs, the top brass, are saying, yeah, we probably shouldn't be doing that. And so, yeah, sure, the Monarch has said, yeah, we're not going to change the law. That is it, okay? Made the law, that's fine. If you want to say something, you can say something. And I think that's perfectly fine. That the NHS bosses are saying that, there should be a more public debate about the pros and cons of people interacting over Christmas and the concerns that could have coming into the new year and people getting the coof. And that's the way to do it. That really is the way to do it. It's to put forward your best debate, your best arguments, your thoughts, your opinions, and then allow people to decide for themselves. That is what a libertarian society or a free will society has to offer. That you can't compel people to follow what you want them to do. Instead, you have to try and persuade them. And I know it can be incredibly annoying to try and persuade people when you're like, but you're so wrong. Why can't you see what the bloody answer is? But that's down to them, and they have to be responsible for their own actions. If you wish to go down the route of saying, if they get in trouble for their own actions, then you can say, well, I told you so it's all on you now. You should be more entitled to do that, because just like you can't enforce your will upon somebody else saying, well, you're wrong, so you're going to do what I'm telling you to do, which you can't do. On the flip side, those people cannot then turn around and say, hey, I'm having a hard time, you have to help me out. No, I don't. Because this is going to be a consensual agreement. So if you don't agree with what I'm putting forward, I don't agree with how you're dealing with it afterwards. So if you do not wish to agree to the terms of the agreement of what you need to do for me to help you, I am not going to help you afterwards, because I haven't agreed to the conditions. You can't say no to my demands and then demand that I adhere to yours. That is not how it works. Which is also why we should abolish the NHS. That's probably the most out there opinion that this channel has. But it is the case that, of course, with the NHS saying that they are the National Healthcare Service, that they give healthcare to everybody in the UK, and no, that's not just every British citizen, unfortunately, but is it everybody in the UK? That they are saying that, in which case, then, in order to provide the level of service, you have to do everything that they say. If you do not wish to do what they say, then they should be able to say, well, then we don't wish to treat you. In which case, that means you do not have to pay them either, but that is not an option. If you do not pay your national insurance tax, you're carted off to prison. So you have to pay them, in which case you have to be in that agreement. They can say whatever they bloody well want to say, and you have to abide by it, otherwise you're breaking the law. And they will use force so that you comply. And that is where they break the non-aggression principle, and that is where it becomes immoral. But if we wish to keep up appearances and maintain this false facade, then they're doing the right thing, at least, by giving their suggestions and saying that you should not do this instead of you cannot do this. So, Chris Hobson, the head of NHS providers, said, I don't want to be the Grinch who stole Christmas, but the US saw record numbers of cases and deaths after the Thanksgiving holiday, and the NHS is worried about January. So in the US, of course, they got different states with different rules. How many people follow those rules? Well, if you're saying there are record cases and record deaths, either not many, in which case the law doesn't bloody matter, or they did and it didn't make any difference, in which case the law doesn't bloody matter. Either way, the law doesn't bloody matter. The government's demonic hub said people need the 5-day relaxation of COVID rules on an emotional level. Not quite demonic. Not quite. They need that so that they don't revolt against you. Let's not fuck about here. What you're saying is, well, okay, we understand that we had a majority and we've been letting you down this entire time. We've been breaking our promises and we've been failing you at every opportunity. And we are very concerned that you're going to be inspired by V for Vendetta and try and take us out. So in order to allay those fears, we're going to give you a token of goodwill by saying, you know those people that you haven't been able to see almost all bloody year now after we said it was just 2 weeks to flatten the curve? You can see them for 5 days because we're so kind, and you clearly need that on an emotional level. You seem to be a bit tired and emotional. I think it's probably the most patronising way you can say, we're afraid for our lives. Because that is what it comes down to. That you know the public is not going to fucking give a shit about the laws that you try to put in place over the Christmas period. We are not going to follow it. And if you try to enforce those, you will get riots in the streets. And, you might have been slightly afraid about BLM protesters or Antifa, but they've got fucking nothing on the working class and the conservatives. As Blackpilled likes to say, nice until we're not. And that is it. The British have a phenomenal reputation for being overly polite and trying to keep up appearances and, smiling at people and, just being polite and then behind closed doors not giving a shit. And concurrently, as being hard as fucking nails when it comes down to it. You can ask somebody like Mike Tyson about that, if you wish. That they know that when it comes down to it, we're not going to suffer in silence. And British people are just going to snap. And it's not going to be a thing at that point that you could say, okay, we were wrong, we will end. It's like, it's a bit too fucking late for that. The gallows are being built, and we know what you've done. And all the time you were in power and thought you could get away with it, you were taking liberties. So we've come for our liberty now, and you're standing in the way. And we're not forgetting. There's the old Irish proverb, in fact, as part of the United Kingdom, the British Isles, Great Britain, that is, by all means forgive, but remember the bastard's name. And I think that sums it up. That you're going to forgive people, allow them to continue on, but if it shows this was not out of ignorance and lack of thought, but instead seems to be out of malice and opportunism for their own personal gain at the expense of those around them and for you as well, well, you haven't forgotten what they did before, and this is a trend, and the trend isn't going to stop, in which case that is where you draw the line in the sand. But before we get to that point, meanwhile, the chances of the Oxford University vaccine being rolled out by the end of the year are pretty high, the vaccine's architect, Professor Sarah Gilbert, has told the BBC. Further cases, along with deaths, within 20 days of a positive test, have been recorded, and I don't mention those numbers because I don't care. They're not accurate. Who gives a shit? So, this many people have been tested. I don't care. This many people have died within 20 days of testing positive. I don't care. So, how many issues are there from the virus directly? Not through government involvement, but from the coof. You can't tell me? Then I don't care about these figures you're giving. They mean fuck all. The number of deaths recorded tends to be lower over the weekend because of reporting delays. Brilliant. I don't care. I really don't. So as they go on to say about the bauble Stipulations. Yep. NHS providers, who represents Hospitals Trust in England, has written to the Prime Minister urging him to personally lead a better public debate about the risks inherent in the guidance, although it stops short of calling for a review of the Christmas rules. Because, of course, as I say, Monica Arp says, no, you fucking don't. So I don't want to be the Grinch who stole Christmas, I really don't, but I think everybody needs to think really, really carefully what they're going to do over Christmas, he said. It's what we're going to do be sticking within the rules? It's how much risk are we going to cause to the people we interact with? No way, Chris. Are you having a self-realization moment? Are you okay? Are you going to have to check yourself into one of your own hospitals? Bloody hell, you're not... No, surely, Chris. Surely not. You're not suggesting that adults are able to think for themselves? Oh my god. What a radical thought. That's ridiculous. How could that possibly be the case? Because we've been told time and time again that it has to be down to the government in order to know what is best for us, and they have to stipulate by law, through taxes and enforcement, what we should do. Otherwise, we have no idea what we're doing, and we would all just die cold, lonely, and of starvation if it wasn't for the government. But now you're suggesting people could actually think critically? No way. Is this just because it matches what you think? Because for once the government isn't doing exactly what you tell them to do, and therefore you have to go about a different way because there are no bad tactics, only bad targets? Is that it? That you have no principles or morals to speak of whatsoever? It's just might is right, and if you don't have the might, then might is no longer right, but instead you have to try and persuade people because you're going to do anything that you can. You power-hungry cunt. Oh, it is. Right. So why should we listen to you now then, seeing as you're only appealing to us as self-actualization adults, now that you can't enforce through fear of violence what you want? So, we shouldn't, but instead we can address it on its own merits and decide for ourselves. Brilliant. What we decide for ourselves is leave us the fuck alone, Chris. Merry Christmas, Chris. Off you fuck now. We're gonna get on with our lives. Bye, Chris. That is what it is at the end of the day. So thank you for trying to persuade us. You failed. So you go do what you want. If you want to spend Christmas all alone and just sing mud songs to yourself over and over again, as good as a Christmas song as that is, if that is what you wish to do, enjoy your Christmas all alone, and that's where you'll be now that we've left you, then go do that. Spend a miserable Christmas. That's fine. The rest of us, we're going to bloody well enjoy it. And we're going to be having fun. And you're going to be afraid. But of course we know that you're not going to be alone and you're not going to be afraid. So just one rule for us and one rule for you. And we don't appreciate that. So now you're losing your marbles over the thought that we could all be treated equally under the law? What a radical thought! That can't be what Britain was built on, surely. That can't be what made Britain such a successful country in the first place. Oh, it is exactly what is responsible. And you can't handle it. We don't give a shit, Chris. We really don't. So, there's a third wave risk. It's, right. So how about you let people know, you let people decide for themselves, and if they want to be lonely, because they're afraid of the coup, then that's what they can do. If they don't want to be lonely, and they want to take those risks, then let them. The only problem is, of course, the NHS. But that's it for now. So let me know what you guys think down below. That it's nice that they are actually going with this different attempt being put forward. They're trying to persuade us and say, hey, here are the facts of the matter. You should probably give some careful consideration as to what you decide to do. Or if you think, no, you can't trust people to decide for themselves. Yeah, they have to be told what to do. I mean, good luck weighing that up with democracy. But yeah, that's it. We need a benevolent dictator, because they definitely exist. And power doesn't corrupt. No. Either way, let me know down below. Always intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. And as always, until next time, have a good one. And podcast should be up tomorrow evening.